Welcome back, travelers. I am the Keeper of Tales. Tonight's story comes from deep in the Montana wilderness, a place where the trees grow thick. The silence is heavy, and not everything that watches you walks on two legs. If you enjoy tales like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know where you're listening from. Now, settle in. This is the story of the terrors of Mill Creek Pass.
The city pulsed outside the fourth-floor window, but inside the apartment, the atmosphere was still. The only sound was the faint clatter of gear being organized, metal on canvas, as Vanessa Carter packed her equipment with mechanical precision. The apartment was a hybrid of practical chaos. Camera lenses, a portable drone case, solar chargers, folded maps, and unwashed mugs scattered like relics of a recent campaign. A storm of logistics, not laziness. Vanessa's fingers moved with intention. Across from her, Nate Delgado leaned against the counter. He was reviewing a route on his tablet, eyes narrowed. "You still set on field testing that gear?" Vanessa didn't look up. "It's not a test if it's staged. I need real isolation." Jared Knox, sitting on the arm of the couch, glanced over. "Define real. We talkin' ghost town quiet or your screams don't echo quiet?" Vanessa finally looked up, one brow raised. "If I wanted an echo, I'd post another poll online." Maya Lynn stood by the window, sipping tea, watching the streetlights flicker to life. "You found a place yet?" Nate tapped his tablet. "Mill Creek Pass, Absaroka Beartooth Wilderness, just outside Livingston. My dad used to take me up there when I was a kid. It's quiet, high elevation, and there is no traffic. The closest ranger station's miles away. You want real wilderness? That's it." Troy Vickers walked in late, tossing keys onto the table. He scanned the room. "So, we're doing the hermit thing again?" No one answered. He grinned. "Cool." Vanessa gave a nod, already sliding another filter into her gear bag. No cheers, no dramatic debates, no group vote. Just a slow, shared understanding that it was time to disappear for a while. No distractions, no performance, just wilderness, and whatever truths they could find in it. It took a few days for the plan to come together. Between work, errands, and last-minute gear checks, the group drifted through their routines with one thought pulling them forward: escape. When the day finally came, they all met at Nate's apartment just after sunrise, backpacks slung, coffee in hand, sleep still clinging to their eyes. The city felt louder that morning, like it knew they were leaving it behind. By the time they hit the road, the sun had fully risen, and the SUV was packed tight, dry food and cases of gear crammed behind the seats. Music blared from the speakers, and the windows stayed cracked just enough for wind and laughter to swirl through. They didn't talk much about what they were running from, just how good it would feel to be off-grid. No phones, no deadlines, just sky, trees, and each other. Miles fell away under their tires, and so did the signal bars. The road narrowed until it became little more than a gravel path, hemmed in by thick forest on both sides. Tree branches scraped the sides of the SUV, and even with the windows closed, the scent of pine and damp earth was strong. "Are we sure this thing still exists?" Jared muttered, squinting ahead. "GPS died a mile ago," Nate replied. "But yeah, it's here. Somewhere." They crested a rise, and the cabin came into view. It stood alone in a shallow clearing, ringed by towering evergreens. Time had weathered it, patches of moss on the roof, but it stood firm like it had always been there, quietly enduring. "This place is a mood," Troy said, stepping out of the SUV. He stretched and looked around. Cabin core aesthetic meets guy with an axe shows up at midnight. I like it. Vanessa took it in with a quiet nod. She was already pulling out her gear, drone case, testing kits, portable solar charger. Maya hesitated before crossing the porch. "It's kind of beautiful, actually. Like, untouched." Nate unlocked the door and pushed it open with a creak that echoed inside. Dust motes swirled in the shafts of light cutting through the boarded windows. The air inside was stale but dry. Firewood still sat by the hearth, stacked neatly. An old table with mismatched chairs. A couch that had clearly lost a battle with a squirrel at some point. "Reminds me of summer trips with my dad," Nate said. "He built this place with a few other guys. Haven't been back since high school." "Feels like home," Jared chuckled. They all unpacked slowly, finding places to stow gear, choosing bunks, testing the old stove. No one said it aloud, but the forest outside felt oddly quiet, like it was trying to tell them something without actually saying it. With her next post weighing heavy on her mind, Vanessa set her drone case gently on the table and looked out the nearest window. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just whispered to herself, "Let's get to work." The next afternoon arrived quietly. A soft breeze rustled the leaves. The forest, calm and indifferent, stretched in all directions beyond the cabin. Vanessa had her gear laid out on the porch. New water filtration straw, foldable solar charger, and of course, her drone. She held the camera up to her face. "All right, team," she said into the lens. "Day 2 out here in the wild. Gear's all set. First up is this ultralight water straw. It's supposed to filter everything from murky puddles to swamp sludge. Let's see if it lives up to the marketing." She smiled, warm and inviting, then turned the camera off and looked at the others lounging inside the cabin. "I'm heading out in a bit. Just a quarter mile. Gonna test some stuff. Anyone want to come?" Jared waved her off from his spot on the floor, eyes half-lidded. "Too comfy." Maya didn't look up from her book. "I'll live vicariously through your footage." Troy rolled over and groaned. "That's a hard pass." Vanessa chuckled, packed her bag, and headed down the faint trail behind the cabin. The forest swallowed the sounds of her footsteps as she moved through the underbrush down a trail. She found a small stream. The water was murky and slow-moving. "Perfect," she whispered to herself. She tested the straw, made a few recorded critiques, and packed up again. After going down the trail a bit more, she came upon a small clearing that would be perfect for taking off and landing of her drone. Once the area was prepped, she turned on the drone. It rose smoothly into the air with a buzz like a concert of bumblebees climbing above the treetops. She adjusted the controller, switching to live feed. "All right, folks," she narrated. "Mavic 3 Pro is live. Range test in progress. Let's see how far we can go before we hit static." The drone soared higher, drifting above the ridgeline and coasting over a hill about 1.5 miles away. She swept the camera left, then right. The view from above was something to behold. As she scanned the area and skyline, something moved. She scanned the trees. Was it a deer? A person? Then she saw it. On screen, a large shape lumbered through a break in the trees, slow, deliberate. She tapped the zoom, and the image sharpened. "Oh, damn. That's a bear." She panned and zoomed closer. It was a grizzly. Lean, long-limbed, but unmistakably massive. Its ribs showed faintly beneath the fur. A pale scar curved from its eye down across its snout. Vanessa watched in silence as it paused, sniffed the air, then moved again. Scar across the face. And it looks thin, she murmured. She kept the drone at a safe distance, slowly trailing the animal until it vanished behind a slope. Her heart thudded, not from fear exactly, but from awe, from the realization that she'd just seen something real, wild. She powered down the drone and hiked back to the cabin. Inside, the group was playing cards and snacking on trail mix. "Guess what I saw?" she shouted with all the excitement of a kid as she plopped down on the couch. "Your reflection and realized you're a bushwoman?" Troy joked. Vanessa grinned. A bear, grizzly, had a scar on its face. "I caught it on the drone. It was about a mile out." Jared sat up a little straighter. "For real?" "Dead serious. Skinny too. I looked it up. It might have just come out of hibernation. They lose like 30% of their weight in winter." Nate nodded slowly. "Long as it stays a mile out, I don't care." Vanessa said nothing more, but the image of that scar, faint and old, stayed with her. And so did the direction the bear had been walking. She wasn't sure, but it seemed to be headed in their direction. The next morning, the group moved slower than usual. The warmth of the cabin clung to them as they laced up boots and layered on jackets. Mist drifted between the trees like low-hanging smoke, and the scent of pine was thick in the air. Vanessa watched the tree line through the cabin window while the others prepared. She had barely slept, replaying the drone footage over and over in her mind. "I still say it was moving toward us," she muttered to herself. Outside, Nate called, "We're good to go, easy loop, just an hour or so." They stuck close as they followed the trailhead behind the cabin. Birds chirped above, and the crunch of gravel beneath their feet was oddly loud. Maya kept glancing over her shoulder. "It's quiet," she said softly. "It's the woods," Jared replied, trying to sound casual. "It's supposed to be quiet." Vanessa walked at the rear, drone controller in hand, occasionally tilting the camera to scan ahead or behind. She didn't mention that she had re-watched the bear's movement 10 times before sunrise. The trail looped through a narrow corridor of evergreens, then opened into a broader space where the trees thinned. Shadows stretched longer across the pine-blanketed forest, and the air had turned noticeably colder. They were about half a mile from the cabin when Vanessa paused, lifting her drone controller again. "Hold up," she said. "Something's moving east of us." The group stopped. A soft rustle, then the unmistakable sound of snapping twigs. Everyone went still. From the trees, a shape emerged, large, deliberate, and slow. The bear. It stepped into partial view, half-shadowed by branches. Its fur looked darker than Vanessa remembered, but the scar across its face gleamed faintly in the fading light. Jared exhaled sharply. "That's the one?" Vanessa nodded, voice low. "Same scar. Same bear." Maya took a cautious step back. "What do we do?" "It's just standing there," Nate said, voice tight. That's when Troy stepped forward. "No way I'm letting this thing intimidate us," he muttered. He stooped, grabbed a fist-sized rock lying next to his foot, and without warning, hurled it at the bear. The rock struck the ground near the bear's front paw. Everyone tensed and stared like deer caught in headlights. The bear flinched, then lowered its head and bolted back into the woods with surprising speed. Troy grinned, lifting both arms. "That's right. Keep running, you hairy bastard." No one joined in. "That was dumb," Vanessa said quietly. "Real dumb." Troy just shrugged. "I scared it off, didn't I?" That night, the forest closed in around the cabin like a drawn breath. The trees swayed as if dancing to a melody all their own, their silhouettes twitching in the moonlight. Inside, the mood had shifted. The usual banter was gone. They sat close around the fireplace, flames licking quietly at dry wood. No music, no jokes. Troy brought out a half-full bottle of whiskey and passed it around. He wore his earlier bravado like a mask, but his eyes lingered too long at the dark windows. "Still think I scared that bear off good," he muttered. No one responded. Jared glanced at his watch. Almost midnight. Maya stood, stretching. "I'm calling it. Long day." Vanessa nodded, but didn't move. She stared into the fire, drone footage looping silently on her tablet beside her. Troy groaned and stood. "Nature calls." "Take the flashlight," Nate said. "Sure, no problem. Gonna be 2 minutes. I'll be fine." He walked out onto the porch, the door creaking behind him. Footsteps on the wood. Then the soft crunch of gravel and grass. The outhouse door creaked open, then shut with a startling thud. They flinched. The group listened without meaning to. A moment passed, then another and another. "Is he taking a shit?" Maya exclaimed. Nate stood and opened the cabin door. "Troy?" No answer. "Dumbass is probably waiting to jump out and scare us." Vanessa grabbed her flashlight. "Not tonight." They stepped outside together, voices low. "Troy!" Jared called. Quickly, walking to the outhouse, yanking open the door. There was no Troy inside. They all looked at each other, not knowing what to say, but with knowing etched upon their faces. Vanessa scanned the tree line. The beam of light cut through the darkness like a knife, but found nothing. No Troy. They circled the cabin, looked for signs of a struggle in the dirt. Nothing. "Okay," Nate said, forcing a laugh. "He's messing with us." Vanessa's voice was tight. "He's not that good an actor." They fanned out, briefly. The darkness, thick, the fear too sharp. Every rustle felt like breath on the back of their necks. "I'm not going into those trees in the dark," Maya said, hugging herself. They regrouped on the porch, eyes drawn to the forest line. "We wait for sunrise," Nate said. "He probably just wandered off to freak us out. He'll come back when he gets bored." Vanessa stared out into the black, arms folded tight. She didn't say what she was thinking. If he got bored, he'd be laughing by now. Morning came slowly like spring after a long winter. Pale light leaked through the trees. The group looked ragged, eyes heavy from a night of half-sleep and distant snapping twigs. Vanessa launched her drone before coffee. The feed flickered to life. She guided it across the clearing, then over the treetops. Her search didn't take long. 100 yards south of the cabin, near the stream, the drone's camera caught it, a shape on the ground. Still, yet unmistaken. She didn't say anything, just turned the screen toward the others. They ran, bolted out the door in unison. They all got there at the same time. "Troy His body slumped on its side, shirt torn, limbs twisted in unnatural ways. Blood soaked the grass underneath his body. What was left of his body? One boot was missing. His face. Jared turned away and vomited. Maya fell to her knees, sobbing. Vanessa stood still, gaze locked on the pale scar that stretched across the corpse's torn cheek. Troy. Nate knelt beside the body, hand shaking as he reached forward but didn't touch him. Something had mauled him, but not in frenzy, in silence, in precision. There were no signs of a fight, no drag marks. It had been quick. Vanessa spoke softly. It didn't leave him far. It wanted us to find him. The forest around them swayed gently in the wind, as if nothing had happened, as if the forest were keeping a secret. Whatever did this to Troy was still out there, maybe watching them now, waiting. Shaken to their core, the group returned to the cabin carrying the weight of Troy's death like an anchor to a ship. No one spoke for a long while. They barely ate, barely moved. The fire crackled and hissed, filling the silence with the only sound anyone could bear. Nate stood abruptly. "We're leaving. Now." Everyone looked up. "We pack what we need, grab the gear, and drive until we hit a signal or find someone who can help. We can't stay here. Not after that." No one argued. They moved with grim determination. Backpacks were loaded. Vanessa packed up her drone gear with care, but faster than usual. But before they could get completely loaded, it came like a 400-pound hairy ninja with claws and a bad attitude. The bear lunged from the tree line. Jared barely had time to react. He managed to put up his arm in desperation as the bear swiped at him, knocking him into the passenger side door. Shirt and skin separated, opening a gash on his forearm. They all screamed as Nate yanked Jared to his feet and scrambled towards the cabin. The bear slammed into the SUV with murderous intent, as if it were trying to eject Vanessa and Maya from the vehicle. But they had already retreated to the cabin's porch with Jared in tow. They didn't stop until the door was locked and a table wedged against it. Maya dropped beside Jared, tearing open his shirt with trembling fingers. Deep claw marks carved across his forearm. "Get towels! Pressure!" she cried. Vanessa pressed fabric to the wounds as Maya worked, trying to access if he had any other injuries. Outside, the bear circled. They heard its breathing, heard its weight crunching slowly over gravel. But it didn't come barreling through the door. It didn't need to. It had sent a message. Night came, and with it, wind, cold, and the crack of distant branches. Then something scraped metal. They all froze. Jared whispered, "That was the car." Vanessa slowly parted the curtain a half-inch. Her eyes widened. The bear, that bear, was outside. Lean, hulking, scarred. Its head was turned toward the SUV. It sniffed, paced, then placed a paw on the hood. The others crept toward the window. It reared up. Then it slammed down. The hood caved inward with a metallic shriek. "No," Maya whispered. The bear circled, claws dragging along the driver's door, leaving deep gouges. It sank its teeth into a front tire. Rubber burst with a pop, then another. Vanessa stepped back. "It's destroying it." They watched helplessly as their only way out was dismantled. Panel by panel, tire by tire. The creature didn't roar. It just moved with determination, its grim task set before it. When it finished, It wandered back into the trees with a furious roar that reverberated through their bones. Vanessa sank to the floor, knees drawn to her chest. It knows we're trapped now. No one slept that night. By morning, it was obvious the vehicle was ruined. So was any hope of simply driving away. They would have to walk. Dawn broke reluctantly the next morning, the light pale and anemic as it filtered through the fog-wrapped trees. No one could manage to get any sleep. Jared sat near the hearth, his right forearm heavily bandaged and tied in a makeshift sling. He winced every time he shifted, but he was awake and determined to stay that way. Maya had done what she could. The cuts were deep, but not life-threatening. She kept the arm elevated and checked for infection, her hands moving with focused care. "We can't wait," Nate said, voice hoarse. "The call box is a couple miles out. We go now, while it's light. We don't get a second shot at this." No one disagreed. They packed light, each with a makeshift weapon. Jared, with a flare gun in hand, stuffed 2 rounds in his pockets. Vanessa gave him a small nod before shutting the cabin door behind them. The forest was too still as the sun looked down upon them. They moved fast but quiet, boots crunching over pebbles and fallen twigs. Vanessa had the drone packed away. Too much interference now, and they couldn't risk the noise. The trail to the call box felt longer. Every bend held dread. Every sound made them jump. They found it where they remembered. The group bolted to a weather-worn post beside a faded map. Nate picked up the receiver and hit the call button. After a pause, a voice crackled through. "Ranger Station 9. Nate leaned in. "This is Nate Delgado. We're up near Mill Creek Pass. We were attacked by a bear. One of our friends is dead and another injured badly." Static. Then, "Copy that. Sit tight. We're dispatching someone now. Do not move from your location. We'll reach you by evening." They exchanged uneasy glances. The color flushed from their faces. Maya's voice was a whisper. Evening might be too late. They started back to the cabin, faster this time. About halfway to the cabin, the bear appeared ahead of them, blocking the trail. Scarred face unmistakable. They paused, locking eyes with the beast. No one dared make a move. Suddenly, there was the sound of heavy steps to their left. As they turned their heads towards the sound, a second bear came lumbering from out of the underbrush. Larger, no scar. Its yellow eyes glinted in the morning light. "2," Maya breathed. "There's 2 of them." The bears didn't charge. They just stared. Their imposing figures spoke volumes. The group broke into a sprint, running off the trail, branches slapping their faces and arms as they ran. They didn't stop running until they saw the roof of the cabin. Only then did they look back. The forest behind them was quiet again. But they had seen it. 2 bears. Not confused sightings, not shadows. 2 predators. Coordinated. Watching. Waiting. The cabin was quieter than it had ever been. Not peaceful, tense. A silence that pressed in on them, thick and suffocating, as though the trees outside were holding their breath. The group huddled inside, gathered around the cold hearth. The fire had gone out hours ago, and no one had moved to relight it. Every sound outside, the shifting of branches, the soft creak of settling wood, drew a glance, a wince, a clutch of improvised weapons. Jared sat near the window, his injured arm cradled against his chest. His face was pale but alert. He kept his good hand near a kitchen knife they had sharpened to a fine edge. Maya sat beside him, her hand on his knee, not saying anything. She didn't need to. Nate stood by the front door, staring through the small pane of glass as if sheer willpower might reveal the path the ranger would take. Vanessa sat at the table, her drone case beside her, unopened. She kept glancing at it, hands twitching with the need to prepare, to be ready. It would be their eyes in the sky again when the time came. The clock on the wall ticked faintly, time dragging its feet. "They'll come before nightfall," Maya said, more to herself than anyone. Vanessa didn't respond. She was too busy listening, for footsteps, for breathing, for any sign that something had crept closer. Nate finally stepped away from the door. If they show up, they'll walk straight into it. 2 bears, no warning. "We could try again on the radio," Maya offered. "No signal," Vanessa said. "We lost it before we even got back." Jared exhaled sharply. "We can't just sit here. We have to do something." Everyone looked at Nate. He nodded slowly. "When they come, we shout. We wave them down before they get too close. If they hear us, maybe we can keep them from stepping into it." Vanessa opened the drone case, checked the charge light, and cursed under her breath. "It's not ready," she said. "Battery's too low. I'd need at least another hour before I can get it up." "So we yell," Jared said grimly. "We yell loud enough to raise the dead if we have to." "And if they don't show until night?" Jared asked. Vanessa's hand hovered over the drone case. "Then we pray they come armed." Outside, the wind moved through the trees just enough to add some coolness to the night. It was just past dusk when they heard it, the low rumble of an approaching engine breaking through the breathless silence of Mill Creek Pass. The sound stirred something desperate in the group. Nate flung open the cabin door. The others followed, stumbling onto the porch, hope rising in their throats. A Ranger SUV rolled slowly into the clearing, headlights sweeping across the battered trees and their own demolished vehicle. "Thank God," Nate muttered. The SUV came to a stop, engine idling. A middle-aged ranger stepped out cautiously, hand near his belt. "This is Ranger Ortega. You the ones who called in?" "Yes," Vanessa called out. "You have to be careful. There's not just one." Movement in the trees. Too fast. Too deliberate. The scarred bear erupted from the left side of the clearing. It slammed into Ortega mid-step, throwing him into the side of his SUV with a dull, sickening thud. His body crumpled to the dirt. "Ortega!" Nate shouted. The group lurched forward, then froze. A second bear emerged from the tree line. Larger, unscarred. Its massive head turned toward them, and it let out a deep, resonant growl as it stepped into their path, cutting them off. It didn't attack. Not yet. It just stood there, glaring, daring. Then, with terrifying purpose, it turned and ran to Ortega. The ranger groaned and shifted, reaching for the Glock on his hip. The scarred bear was faster. It clamped its jaws around Ortega's arm and shook violently, the crunch of bone audible even from the cabin steps. Ortega let out a choked, muffled scream just as the larger bear lunged in and bit down on his throat. The scream ended. His blood sprayed across the SUV's side panel in a dark arc. The bears tore into the body together now, snarling and thrashing, pulling him apart as if fighting over a prize. The sheer brutality of the attack froze them. The horror smeared on their faces like masks. Then, as quickly as they had come, the 2 bears began dragging what was left of Ortega's mangled body into the woods. Nate stepped back from the porch and shut the door slowly. Inside the cabin, the air felt heavier, oppressive. Vanessa moved silently, checking windows and reinforcing the makeshift barricades with furniture, trying to forget what she just saw. Nate and Jared secured the porch. Nate paced, running both hands through his hair. We need a plan. We've got tools, flares, maybe we could… No, Maya snapped. Her voice was sharp. No more plans, no more running. Every time we do, someone gets hurt, or worse. Silence. The shadows grew longer across the cabin floor. The wind outside had gone still. We wait, Vanessa said. We wait until dawn. That ranger's vehicle might still run. If we move at first light, we might beat them to it. And what if they're waiting again? Jared asked. Vanessa didn't answer. The cabin was quiet now, except for the crackle of an old oil lantern and Jared's ragged breathing. Then a sound, a soft thud, something brushing against the outer wall. They froze. Vanessa whispered, "They're here to finish us off." The first impact came without warning. A thunderous crack as the back wall shuddered, dust raining from the rafters. The lantern swung wildly on its hook. Books toppled from a shelf. Jared cried out. "Barricade it!" Nate shouted. They shoved a dresser and the old dining table against the wall. Nails screamed in protest as wood flexed. A second slam, this time from the front porch. Vanessa turned, eyes scanning the windows. "They're boxing us in, attacking from different sides." Maya grabbed the flare gun. "We've only got 2 flares left." "Make them count!" Nate shouted. A window shattered in the kitchen. Glass exploded inward. A dark, massive shape surged forward, its snout forcing through the narrow frame. Claws raked at the interior. Maya fired. The flare hit the window frame, bursting into a screaming column of fire. The bear withdrew with a furious growl, knocking over the propane canister on the porch. "Move! That could go!" Nate dragged Jared farther from the wall. Another window burst open in the back room. Vanessa grabbed a chair and jammed it under the doorknob as the back door began to shake, hinges groaning under pressure. She turned back in time to see the front door bulge inward. "Here it comes!" Nate roared. They all braced. The front door cracked. A paw came through, a sickening press of muscle and claw. It swiped blindly, raking deep gouges into the wall. Maya screamed. Vanessa ran to the fireplace. She grabbed a burning log with the poker and drove it toward the opening. The bear howled and withdrew. Smoke and ash choked the room. Then nothing. Breathless, the group stood in the smoldering cabin, windows shattered, blood drying on the floor. "They'll be back," Vanessa said. "But next time," Nate said grimly, "we don't wait. We fight." The cabin was battered. The group, bloodied, pale but alive, sat in a ring on the floor, weapons fashioned from furniture and desperation laid out before them. They all decided that when morning came, they would get out or die trying. Although the night didn't bring much rest, the group looked more determined. Nate had broken off legs from a dining chair and wrapped them in strips of towel, handing them to Maya and Vanessa. Vanessa soaked them in lamp oil and set them aside as torches. Jared, injured but alert, held a broomstick with a large hunting knife duct taped to the end. Vanessa checked her phone. 2 flickering bars. She stared at it, stunned. "I think I can go live." "What?" Nate asked. I can stream this. If we die out here, someone needs to see it, to know what happened." No one argued. She booted up her drone, hands steady despite everything. The live feed came to life. "All right," she whispered. "Let's find the body." The plan was to find the body, sneak and retrieve the keys, and get the hell out of Dodge. The drone lifted silently into the sky. Pine trees blurred beneath the camera as it swept across the clearing, then over the trail. It didn't take long to find the body. There, slumped beside a log not far from the stream. She panned farther. By the water's edge, she spotted the two bears. Still, drinking, resting. Too close. "We need the keys off the Ranger," Vanessa said. "But they're way too close." "I'll go," Nate said. "I'm quieter than I look." "Okay, I'll guide you with the drone," she added. "I have to take it high enough so the bears don't hear it, but you should be able to still see it." He nodded and crept out of the cabin, moving with practiced care. The drone hovered above, watching. Step by step, Nate moved closer. Sweat beading on his forehead as he moved stealthily through the trees and underbrush. As he moved closer, he could smell this copper scent on the air mixed with death. It almost caused his insides to become outside. There, a few feet ahead, he saw the body, but he could also hear the bears. They weren't close, but his heart still raced with every sound they made. He crouched, turned the body looking for the keys. He heard them before he saw them. He paused. He was sure the bears heard it also. He waited, but nothing came. In one smooth motion, he removed the keys from the key ring on the Ranger's belt and turned, heading back towards the cabin. There was a grunt. One of the bears stopped drinking from the creek and sniffed the air. "They smell him," Maya whispered, staring at the screen. "Distract them," Jared urged. Without hesitation, Vanessa swooped the drone down, blades buzzing. She aimed it at the nearest bear's head and drove it in hard, kamikaze style. The drone smashed into the bear's face with a spark and a crack of plastic. The bear recoiled, roaring. Nate ran with all the speed he could muster. The others were already at the cabin door when he returned, panting and wild-eyed, keys clenched in his fist. They nearly crashed into each other as they met at the Ranger's SUV. There was no time for necessities as a roar from one of the bears filled the air. Thankfully, the doors were already unlocked. As they entered the vehicle, the bear burst from the trees. They scrambled into the SUV, just barely managing to slam the doors shut. The driver's side window exploded as a massive paw slammed into it, sending broken glass shooting into their faces. The bear lunged, trying to fit through the window. From the passenger seat, Maya jabbed again and again at the bear with the makeshift spear, finally hitting it in the eye. The bear reeled back, bellowing, staggering into the woods. Nate managed to crank the engine in the chaos. The engine roared. Then the rear window shattered. The second bear. It clawed into the back seat, jaws snapping. They kicked, swung, screamed. Vanessa thrust a torch backward, searing fur. The bear shrieked, nearly ripping off the back door as it made its retreat. With one quick turn, Nate maneuvered the SUV down the road, tires skidding on gravel as they sped away. In the rearview mirror, the bear stood at the edge of the woods, not chasing, just watching. Then it roared. A sound that echoed down the pass like the voice of something ancient. No one looked back. They didn't stop driving until they reached the ranger station. The SUV screeched to a halt, gravel flying from under the tires and the doors flung open. The group spilled out, bloodied, disheveled, shaking with adrenaline. They looked less like survivors and more like escapees from a war zone. Rangers inside froze, jaws slack as they took in the sight. One of them, a younger man with a clean uniform and steady hands, stepped forward. "What the hell happened to y'all?" Nate's voice cracked. "Your man, the ranger, he's dead, mauled. And it wasn't one bear. There were two." "Two?" Another ranger repeated, frowning. Vanessa nodded. "They were coordinated. One flushed us out. The other waited. They weren't just defending territory. They were hunting." A silence settled over the room. One of the older rangers crossed his arms, the color draining from his face. "That's not normal grizzly behavior." "No," Jared muttered. "No, it's not." Within 10 minutes, 4 rangers had geared up. They loaded rifles, flares, and emergency supplies into 2 vehicles. "Stay here," the lead ranger told them. "You've been through enough." The group didn't argue. As the SUVs pulled away, dust spiraling behind them, they sat in the lobby of the station, not speaking, just listening and consoling each other. The Rangers arrived at the cabin site shortly before noon. The scene was pure devastation. The cabin had been torn apart, doors ripped from hinges, walls splintered like firewood. Blood smeared the floorboards, leading in different directions. The air stank of rot, ash, and pine. The SUV the group had originally arrived in was barely recognizable, crushed in, torn open, coated in claw marks. They found the ranger's body, cold, torn. But there were no bears, no bodies, no tracks, nothing. "Where the hell did they go?" one ranger asked. But there was no trail, no blood drops, no broken branches, no trace. The lead ranger keyed his radio. "This is Bravo team. We're at the site. Cabins totaled, vehicles a wreck, blood all over, ranger down, but no bears." Static. Then Vanessa's voice filtered through from the station. "That's not possible. We stabbed them, burned them. One of them lost an eye. It should be dead." The ranger looked around the clearing, at the crushed walls and gouged trees. Mill Creek Pass had gone quiet, unnaturally quiet. Back at the station, Maya sat on a bench next to Jared, slowly replacing the dressing on his forearm. "Troy would have hated this silence," she whispered. Jared nodded, wincing. He used to talk just to fill the air, said it kept the bad thoughts away. Vanessa stood near the window, staring out. He deserved better. Nate added, voice low, "We are gonna miss him." No one said much after that. Outside, the sun dipped behind the ridge and shadows stretched across the floor. Inside, they waited. Waited for word. Waited for closure. It never came.
And so ends the tale of the terrors of Mill Creek Pass. What happened in those woods may fade from headlines, but never from the minds of those who survived. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And leave a comment. Let our fellow travelers know what horrors you have seen. Until next time, I am the Keeper of Tales. And remember, should you find yourself lost along your travels, let the light be your guide.